Take my fortune. Just give me a child," whispered Harrison Wells, the 42-year-old billionaire whose name graced half the buildings in downtown Chicago. His steel-blue eyes, usually sharp during boardroom negotiations, now held a vulnerability that made Emma Thompson's heart race. She shifted uncomfortably in her threadbare uniform, the same black dress she'd worn for 3 years of waitressing at various upscale restaurants, carefully mended in a dozen places. Emma had only been serving at this charity gala because her regular diner job didn't pay enough to cover her mother's medications. The catering company paid cash, an extra $120 she desperately needed for this month's overdue electric bill. She never expected to end up alone with Harrison Wells himself, accidentally overhearing his phone conversation about legacy planning, and certainly never expected him to make such a proposition when he realized she was there. "I'm sorry, Mr. Wells. I don't think I heard you correctly," Emma stammered, her calloused hands trembling as she gathered empty champagne flutes. One had a lipstick stain that matched the shade of the socialite, who'd earlier looked through Emma as if she were invisible. Harrison straightened his bespoke suit that probably cost more than her annual rent. "I've spent 20 years building Wells Enterprises into a global empire worth billions. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes." His voice, though soft, carried the weight of loneliness that no fortune could alleviate. "But I have no one to leave it to, no family, no legacy." Emma stood frozen, her chestnut hair falling from the tight bun she'd hastily arranged before her shift. At 28, she lived in a dilapidated studio apartment in the worst part of town, the kind of place where water stains decorated the ceiling and mice scurried behind paper-thin walls. Her life hadn't always been this way. "Mr. Wells, I don't understand what you're asking me," she finally managed, though deep down she feared she understood perfectly. "I'm offering you a way out, Emma." Her name tag had given her away. "A business arrangement, marriage in name only. I need an heir, and you need financial security." Harrison walked to a nearby window overlooking the glittering city, a city that offered Emma nothing but hardship. "In return, I'll provide everything you and your mother could ever need." Emma's worn shoes pinched her feet after 10 hours of standing. Her mother's advanced cancer required experimental treatments their insurance had denied, 3 months behind on rent, collection agencies calling day and night, and the constant fear of ending up on the streets. These were Emma's daily realities. "Why me?" she asked, finding her voice. "You could have anyone, models, socialites, women from your social circle." Harrison's laugh was hollow. "I've dated those women. They want the lifestyle, the status, the money, not the man behind it all." He moved closer, his expensive cologne highlighting the scent of industrial cleaner on her hands. "You're different. I saw how you slipped your dinner roll to that homeless man outside. How you helped the elderly woman with her coat while others ignored her. Those are rare qualities in my world." Emma's ancient phone buzzed in her pocket, probably another hospital calling about overdue payments. She silenced it without looking. "I need time to think," she whispered. "Of course," Harrison nodded, handing her a business card with his private number. "Take a few days. But Emma, this offer won't change who you are. It will simply remove the financial burdens crushing you." That night, Emma's tiny apartment felt even smaller than usual. The leaky faucet's persistent drip punctuated her thoughts as rats scratched in the walls. She sat on her mattress on the floor, she'd sold the bed frame months ago for grocery money, and explained Harrison's proposition to her best friend, Olivia Parker, who lived in equally dire circumstances down the hall. "He's basically offering you a contract marriage and baby," Olivia exclaimed, eyes wide in the dim light. Emma kept only one bulb burning to save electricity. "This is crazy, Em. It's insane," Emma agreed, pulling a thin blanket around her shoulders in the unheated room. "But Liv, you've seen Mum. The new treatment could save her life, but it costs more money than I'll see in a decade." Emma glanced at her mother, sleeping fitfully behind a makeshift curtain dividing their studio apartment. Carol Thompson had once been vibrant and strong before cancer, and poverty had hollowed her out. Now at 54, she looked 70, her body ravaged by disease and inadequate medical care. Olivia's expression softened. "What about love, Em? Don't you want that?" "Love is a luxury I can't afford right now," Emma replied, glancing at the past-due medical bills spread across her milk crate nightstand. "Besides, it's just a business arrangement. Once he has an heir, I'd have financial security for life. Mom would get proper treatment, we'd have a real home." And what about your dreams, your photography? You pawned your camera months ago. Emma walked to the window, with its view of brick walls and fire escapes. Maybe this is my chance to reclaim those dreams. With financial security, I could finally finish my degree, buy equipment, pursue photography while raising a child. It's not the path I imagined, but it's a path, Olivia finished for her. The next morning arrived with startling clarity. Emma counted her last $3.42 in change, skipped breakfast, and used her final bus pass to reach Harrison's downtown office building. Security almost didn't let her in, her worn clothes marking her as an outsider. When she finally reached his floor, his assistant eyed her suspiciously. "Yes," Emma said simply, as she stood before Harrison's massive desk, her determination outweighing her fear. Harrison looked up, his expression momentarily surprised before settling into careful neutrality. "You understand what this means, the terms?" "I have conditions," Emma replied, surprising herself with her boldness. "I want my mother's treatment fully covered at the best facility. I want to continue my education and pursue my photography. And I want your word that you'll be a present father, not just a provider." A hint of respect flickered in Harrison's eyes. "I expected nothing less." He extended his hand. "We have a deal, Miss Thompson." What Emma couldn't have known as they shook hands was that across town, Harrison's estranged brother Michael Wells had just returned to Chicago after 15 years abroad, bringing with him secrets that could unravel everything, including the real reason behind Harrison's desperate need for an heir, and the truth about the Wells family fortune that even Harrison himself didn't fully understand. As Emma left the office, Harrison picked up his phone. "She agreed," he said to the person on the other end. "Begin the arrangements." Emma stood in her mother's new private hospital room, unable to believe the transformation that had occurred in just 3 days. Gone was the overcrowded ward with its constant noise and harried nurses. Instead, Carol Thompson rested in a state-of-the-art medical suite that looked more like a luxury hotel, complete with panoramic views of Lake Michigan. "The doctor says they're starting me on the Swiss treatment tomorrow," Carol said, her thin face brightening with hope for the first time in months. "He said, Emma, he said there's a 60% chance of remission." Emma squeezed her mother's fragile hand, avoiding the IV lines delivering premium nutrients her mother's body desperately needed. "That's wonderful, Mum." "How did you do this?" Carol asked, her eyes searching her daughter's face. "They told me everything's covered. Private nurses, experimental treatments, even rehabilitation afterward. Our insurance would never—" Emma swallowed hard. "I got a new job. A really good one." It wasn't exactly a lie. Her hastily signed prenuptial agreement with Harrison included a position at Wells Enterprises with a salary that made her head spin. The marriage would come later, once Carol was stronger. Harrison had agreed to keep their arrangement private until then. "What kind of job pays this much?" Carol pressed, suspicion creeping into her voice. "Emma Catherine Thompson, what aren't you telling me?" Before Emma could formulate a response, a soft knock interrupted them. Harrison Wells stood in the doorway, impeccably dressed in a tailored grey suit that probably cost more than all the furniture in Emma's apartment, several times over. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said smoothly, holding a lush bouquet of lilies. "I wanted to see how you were settling in, Mrs. Thompson." Emma's heart hammered as her two worlds collided. She'd hoped to keep them separate a little longer. "Mr. Wells," she managed, standing awkwardly between her mother and her future husband. "I didn't know you were coming." "Harrison, please," he corrected with practiced charm, placing the flowers on a side table. "And you must be Carol. Emma speaks so highly of you." Carol's confused gaze darted between them. "You're Harrison Wells? The Harrison Wells? Emma, how do you know him?" "Your daughter has become invaluable to my organization," Harrison replied before Emma could speak. "Her perspective is refreshing, different from what I usually encounter." The statement was technically true, if deliberately misleading. After 15 uncomfortable minutes of Harrison charming her mother with sanitized stories of how they'd met, Emma walked him to the elevator. "You didn't need to come," she whispered urgently. "We agreed to keep this private until—" "I wanted to see for myself that she was receiving proper care," Harrison interrupted, his tone businesslike. "And I wanted to meet the woman who raised you. I need to understand what kind of genetics we're working with." Emma flinched. "She's not a broodmare and neither am I." Something that might have been regret flickered across Harrison's face. Poor choice of words. I apologize. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. My driver will take you to the apartment when you're ready. Apartment? Emma repeated. The penthouse on Lakeshore Drive. Your new home. Harrison stepped into the elevator. Your things have already been moved. The doorman has your key. Before she could protest, the doors closed, leaving Emma alone in the hushed hospital corridor, caught between gratitude and resentment. That evening, Emma stood paralyzed in the foyer of what Harrison had casually called the apartment, a 4,000-square-foot penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Chicago's skyline. The marble floors beneath her worn sneakers probably cost more than her entire life savings. When Harrison had mentioned moving her things, she'd pictured boxes of her meager possessions cluttering an opulent space. Instead, she found all traces of her former life hidden away, replaced by designer clothes filling a closet larger than her old apartment. Her phone buzzed, a text from Olivia. How's the prince's castle? Forgotten us peasants yet? The joke stung more than Olivia could know. Emma wandered through rooms designed by someone who'd never had to choose between electricity and food. In the kitchen, she opened a refrigerator stocked with foods she couldn't pronounce, much less recognize. The bathroom featured a shower with more settings than her old car had gears. She felt like an imposter, a street urchin who'd snuck into a palace. When she finally found her old backpack tucked in a closet, she clutched it like a lifeline. Inside was her mother's faded photograph, a dog-eared copy of her favorite book, and the pawnshop ticket for her camera, the only real treasure she'd ever owned. Emma was still sitting on the floor, surrounded by remnants of her old life, when Harrison arrived home hours later. You don't like it, he stated, loosening his tie as he assessed her tear-streaked face. It's not that, Emma said, rising awkwardly. It's beautiful, it's just not me. Harrison considered this. Then make it you. Change whatever you want. He gestured vaguely around the space. This is your home now. No, it's your home that you're letting me stay in, Emma corrected, finding her voice. Just like it's your money paying for Mom's treatment, your driver taking me around, your clothes I'm supposed to wear. I've gone from having nothing to having nothing that's actually mine. Something unexpected happened then. Harrison laughed, not unkindly, but with genuine amusement. You really aren't like anyone I've met before. Most people would be thanking me profusely by now. I'm grateful, Emma insisted, but grateful and happy aren't the same thing. Harrison's expression sobered. No, they're not. He moved to the kitchen, pouring himself a drink from a crystal decanter. My father used to say that money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys everything else. I believed him until I realized everything else wasn't enough. The raw honesty in his voice surprised her. Why do you really want a child? Emma asked suddenly. And don't give me that line about legacy. There's more to it. Harrison stared into his glass. My brother, Michael, disappeared 15 years ago after a disagreement about the company. Recent information suggests he may be attempting to return and challenge my control of Wells Enterprises. Without an heir, the board might support his claim. So this is about business, Emma said flatly. It started that way, Harrison admitted, meeting her gaze directly. But I'm 42, Emma. I've built an empire but no real connections. The idea of a child, someone to mentor, to watch grow, to love unconditionally, has become more appealing than I expected. Before Emma could respond, Harrison's phone rang. His expression darkened as he checked the caller. I need to take this, he said, moving toward his office. We'll continue later. Emma watched him go, wondering what kind of man Harrison Wells really was beneath his carefully controlled exterior. She couldn't help overhearing snippets of his conversation. What do you mean Michael's been seen? Where? Harrison's voice carried an edge she hadn't heard before. No, don't approach him. Just keep watching. Yes, I'm handling the air situation. No, the board doesn't need to know yet. As the conversation continued, Emma slipped quietly to her new bedroom, her mind spinning with questions. What had really happened between Harrison and his brother? And what would happen to her and her mother if this mysterious Michael succeeded in whatever he was planning? The next morning, Emma woke to an envelope sliding under her door. Inside was a black credit card with her name embossed on it, along with a note in Harrison's precise handwriting. Make this place yours. Make your life yours. The only thing I ask is that you attend the charity gala with me on Saturday. So Emma held the card, its weight somehow both liberating and terrifying. She'd never owned anything so powerful, or so dangerous. With it, she could help so many people beyond just her mother. She could finish school, restart her photography career, perhaps even help Olivia escape their old neighborhood. But at what cost to her future, to her freedom, to her heart, which was beginning to respond to Harrison in ways she hadn't anticipated? The charity gala at the Chicago Museum of Contemporary Art made Emma feel like an imposter, despite the Alexander McQueen gown that flowed over her figure, a dress that cost more than 6 months of her former rent. Harrison had insisted on a complete makeover, sending his personal stylist, a razor-sharp woman named Vivian, to transform Emma from a waitress into a billionaire's companion. The result left her barely recognizing her own reflection. "Remember," Harrison murmured as they entered the grand hall, his hand resting possessively at the small of her back, "tonight we're introducing you as my special consultant on community initiatives. The engagement announcement comes later." Emma nodded, her newly styled hair brushing bare shoulders that had never felt so exposed. She'd spent the past 3 days researching Chicago's underprivileged communities, knowledge she actually possessed firsthand, to make the cover story believable. Harrison, a silver-haired man in an impeccable tuxedo, approached, champagne glass in hand. "About time you arrived. The board's been asking for you." "Richard?" Harrison nodded coolly. "Allow me to introduce Emma Thompson, our new consultant on community initiatives. Emma, Richard Blackwood, chairman of the Wells Enterprises Board." Richard's appraising gaze made Emma feel like livestock at auction. "Community initiatives? That's unexpected. Your father never concerned himself with such matters." "I'm not my father," Harrison replied with a tight smile. "Clearly." Richard's attention lingered on Emma. "Tell me, Ms. Thompson, what makes you qualified for such a position?" Emma straightened her shoulders. "Experience, Mr. Blackwood. I've lived the reality your charts and statistics try to capture. I know which programs actually help and which just look good in annual reports." Richard's eyebrows rose, but before he could respond, commotion erupted near the entrance. Heads turned, whispers rippled through the crowd, and Harrison's grip on Emma's waist tightened painfully. A man who could only be Harrison's brother had arrived. Michael Wells had the same commanding height and aristocratic features, but where Harrison was precisely controlled, Michael radiated charismatic energy. His tailored suit was unconventional, his smile easy as he greeted shocked attendees like old friends. "He wasn't supposed to be here," Harrison hissed, his composure cracking for the first time since Emma had met him. "Stay by my side." Michael spotted them immediately, cutting through the crowd with determined grace. "Harry, surprise," he called, using a nickname that made Harrison's jaw clench. "Don't tell me you didn't get my RSVP. After 15 years, I thought you'd roll out the red carpet for your prodigal brother." Emma felt the tension vibrating through Harrison's body as the brothers faced each other. The physical resemblance was striking up close, but Michael's eyes held a warmth Harrison's lacked. "Michael," Harrison acknowledged coldly, "this is a private event." "For Wells Enterprises' top donors and partners," Michael corrected, his gaze sliding to Emma. "And I still own 15% of the company, shares you've been trying very hard to acquire." He extended his hand to Emma. "Michael Wells, and you are?" "Emma Thompson," she replied, accepting his handshake. His palm was calloused, unexpected for a wealthy man. "Emma consults on our community initiatives," Harrison interjected. Michael's smile widened. "Community initiatives? You've changed, Harry." He turned back to Emma. "Has he told you how he acquired his fortune? The family history?" "That's enough," Harrison snapped. "This isn't the place." "It never is with you," Michael retorted, his easy manner hardening slightly. "But time's running out, brother." The truth has a way of surfacing. As security approached at Harrison's subtle signal, Michael leaned closer to Emma. "Ask him about the Princeton medical trials," he whispered before allowing himself to be escorted out, leaving a wake of murmurs and speculation. Harrison spent the remainder of the evening in damage control, moving from board members to investors with practiced reassurances, keeping Emma close but hardly acknowledging her. His charming mask had returned, but Emma sensed the rage simmering beneath. It was nearly midnight when they finally returned to the penthouse. Harrison immediately poured himself a double scotch, loosening his bow tie with uncharacteristic roughness. "What did he mean about Princeton Medical?" Emma asked, kicking off the painful designer heels. Harrison froze mid-sip. "Michael has always been dramatic. Ignore him." He's your brother. You share the same face, the same company. Why would he disappear for 15 years and come back now? Because he knows I'm vulnerable, Harrison snapped, slamming his glass down. The succession plan, the board's confidence, it all hinges on stability. Michael represents chaos, Emma persisted, emboldened by the evening's revelations. And Princeton Medical? Harrison's eyes darkened. Drop it, Emma. Some things are better left buried, but Emma couldn't. The next morning, while Harrison attended emergency board meetings, she used her new laptop to search for Princeton Medical Trials Wells Enterprises. What she found made her blood run cold. 10 years ago, Princeton Medical, a pharmaceutical company owned by Wells Enterprises, had conducted trials for an experimental cancer drug in developing countries. The results had been falsified, side effects covered up. When a whistleblower tried to go public, they mysteriously disappeared. The scandal had been quietly buried, the company sold off, but hundreds had died or suffered permanent damage. Emma's hands trembled as another search revealed the whistleblower's name. Dr. Michael Wells, who had opposed his brother's decision to hide the evidence. The penthouse door opened, startling Emma from her research. Harrison entered, looking exhausted. "The board is panicking," he announced without preamble. "We need to accelerate our timeline. The engagement announcement needs to happen this week and the wedding within a month." Emma closed her laptop slowly. "Did you know people died in those trials?" Harrison went very still. "You've been digging. Your brother wasn't just being dramatic, was he? People died, Harrison, real people." "Business involves difficult decisions," he responded, his voice dangerously calm. Michael never understood that. He wanted to recall the drug, admit fault, face billions in lawsuits. It would have destroyed everything our father built. "So instead you destroyed lives," Emma whispered, rising from the sofa. "Did you have Michael silenced too?" Harrison's laugh was bitter. "Silenced? I paid him off. 15% of the company and enough money to disappear forever. He took it and ran until now." He approached Emma, his expression softening with calculated precision. "Emma, the past is complicated, but our arrangement isn't. Your mother's treatment is working, you have security, opportunity. Don't throw that away over ancient history." Emma stepped back, seeing him clearly for the first time. "Does the board know? Is that why you need an heir so desperately? To secure control before they discover what you did?" Something dangerous flashed in Harrison's eyes. "You signed a contract, Emma. Breaking it would be inadvisable, especially for your mother's continuing care." The threat hung in the air between them. Emma felt sick as she realized the golden cage she'd willingly entered. Before she could respond, Harrison's phone rang. "Yes?" he answered sharply. As he listened, his expression changed from irritation to shock. "What hospital? I'll be right there." He ended the call, grabbing his keys. "Michael's been in an accident, hit and run." "Did you arrange that too?" Emma asked coldly. Harrison's face hardened. "Despite what you now think of me, I would never harm my brother. Stay here. We'll finish this discussion when I return." After Harrison left, Emma paced the penthouse, her mind racing. Everything had changed. She couldn't be part of this, couldn't bring a child into this web of lies and corruption. But her mother's treatment, how could she walk away from that? Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. "This is Michael. Harrison's not who you think, neither am I. Meet me at Northwestern Memorial Room 412, come alone." Emma stared at the message, torn between fear and determination. If Michael was supposedly injured in the hospital, how was he texting her? Something wasn't adding up. 40 minutes later, Emma slipped into room 412 at Northwestern Memorial. Instead of Michael in a hospital bed, she found him sitting calmly in a visitor's chair, completely uninjured. "You're not hurt," she stated, keeping her distance. "A necessary deception to speak with you privately," Michael explained. "Harrison has been monitoring your movements since the gala." "Why am I here? What do you want from me?" Michael gestured to the empty chair opposite him. "To warn you, and to offer you a choice." Reluctantly, Emma sat, keeping her phone ready to call for help. "Harrison told you I took a payoff and ran," Michael began. "The truth is, I fled because he threatened to frame me for the Princeton medical cover-up. I've spent 15 years gathering evidence against him, waiting for the right moment to return. Why now?" "Because of you," Michael said simply. When my sources reported Harrison was seeking a wife, specifically a woman from difficult circumstances with no connections, I knew he was getting desperate. Emma's cheeks burned with humiliation. So I was that transparent, a poor girl easily manipulated? You were vulnerable, Michael corrected gently, as I once was. Harrison has always exploited vulnerability. It's how our father taught us to do business. His expression darkened. I believed in it too until Princeton, until I saw the actual human cost of our difficult decisions. He reached into his jacket, extracting a USB drive. Everything about Princeton Medical is here. Documents, testimonies, financial trails. Enough to bring Harrison down. He held it out to Emma. But using it means the end of Wells Enterprises as it exists now. Thousands of innocent employees would be affected. Your security, your mother's treatment, all gone. Emma stared at the drive, the weight of the decision crushing her. Why give this to me? Why not go public yourself? Because you deserve to choose your own fate, Michael replied. Harrison has taken that from too many people already. The hospital room door suddenly burst open. Harrison stood there, his normally perfect appearance disheveled, rage contorting his features. I should have known, he snarled, looking between them. Working together all along, were you? Planning to take everything I've built? No, Harrison, Michael said calmly, rising to face his brother. Emma only just learned the truth. This is between you and me. Harrison's laugh was ugly. Is it? Then why involve her? Why not come directly to me? Because she deserves to know who she's getting into bed with. Literally, Michael replied. She deserves to know what kind of father you'd really be. Harrison's gaze locked on the USB drive in Emma's hand. Give me that, Emma, now. Emma stood, finding strength she didn't know she possessed. No. Think carefully, Harrison warned. Your mother's treatment, your future. I can take it all away with one phone call. Actually, you can't, Michael interjected. I've already arranged for Carol Thompson's care to continue regardless of what happens here. Full coverage, best doctors, for as long as needed. Harrison's face contorted with fury. So you always were sentimental, Michael. It's why father preferred me. And why I can still sleep at night, Michael countered. As the brothers faced off, Emma realized with startling clarity that she held the power to change everything. The USB drive in her palm contained enough evidence to destroy Harrison, but also to hurt countless innocent people. Yet doing nothing meant allowing him to continue unchecked, possibly hurting more people in the future. There had to be a third option. Emma looked between the brothers, one corrupted by power, one seeking redemption, and suddenly understood what she needed to do. Enough. Emma's voice cut through the tension between the Wells brothers. Both men turned to her, momentarily startled by her commanding tone. So different from the desperate waitress of just weeks before. She held up the USB drive. This isn't just about you two anymore. It's about all the lives connected to your family's empire, including mine. Harrison stepped toward her, hand outstretched. Emma, be reasonable. I am being reasonable, she interrupted, backing away. More reasonable than either of you. Harrison, you buried evidence that killed people to protect profits. Michael, you ran away for 15 years instead of fighting harder to make it right. She looked between them, these powerful men suddenly hanging on her every word. You're both wrong. Michael frowned. What are you suggesting? Emma took a deep breath. A third option, one that holds Harrison accountable without destroying thousands of innocent employees' livelihoods. She turned to Harrison. You will step down as CEO of Wells Enterprises and establish a multi-billion-dollar fund for the victims of the Princeton medical trials and their families. Harrison barked a laugh. And why would I do that? Because if you don't, Emma said calmly, I'll give this evidence to the board of directors rather than the press. They'll force you out anyway to save the company, but you'll likely face criminal charges. This way you keep your freedom. The color drained from Harrison's face. You wouldn't. I was willing to bear your child for my mother's medical care, Emma reminded him. Don't underestimate what I'm willing to do for justice. Michael watched her with newfound respect. The board would never accept this arrangement without someone they trust taking over. They'll accept you, Emma replied, turning to Michael. The prodigal son who tried to stop the Princeton disaster, the brother with a conscience, but you'll need to prove yourself trustworthy. Michael studied her carefully. How? by agreeing that 30% of company profits going forward will fund healthcare initiatives for underserved communities, the kind of communities I come from, where people die because they can't afford basic care. Harrison shook his head in disbelief. You're talking about billions of dollars. I'm talking about lives, Emma corrected, something neither of you considered enough. A tense silence filled the hospital room as the brothers absorbed her ultimatum. Emma stood her ground, clutching the USB drive that represented both destruction and possibility. The board will never agree, Harrison finally said, but his tone lacked conviction. Let me worry about the board, Michael replied, his expression thoughtful as he assessed Emma. You're forgetting that Richard Blackwood and I were close before I left. He never fully trusted you, Harrison. Harrison's shoulders slumped slightly, the first sign of defeat Emma had ever seen in him. And what happens to our arrangement? He asked Emma quietly. It's over, she said firmly. I won't bring a child into this world as a business transaction, but, she added, softening slightly, I don't need to be your enemy either. Reform is possible, Harrison. Redemption is possible. 3 weeks later, Emma stood in the reception area of Wells Enterprises' executive floor, dressed in a simple but elegant pantsuit, purchased with her legitimate salary as the company's new director of community health initiatives. The position had been Michael's idea, approved unanimously by a board eager to demonstrate corporate responsibility in the wake of Harrison's health-related retirement. The press release had been carefully crafted, Harrison Wells stepping down to focus on personal matters, his brother Michael returning to guide the family company with a renewed commitment to ethical business practices. No mention of Princeton Medical, though substantial settlements were quietly being arranged for victims' families under strict confidentiality agreements. Miss Thompson, Harrison's former assistant called. The board is ready for you. Emma entered the boardroom where 12 pairs of eyes turned to her expectantly. Michael nodded encouragingly from the head of the table, looking more comfortable in his new role than anyone had anticipated. Gentlemen, ladies, Emma began, distributing presentation folders. Thank you for this opportunity. What I'm proposing today is more than charity. It's strategic investment in communities that have been overlooked for generations. As she outlined her vision for healthcare initiatives that would transform Chicago's poorest neighborhoods, while generating positive publicity for Wells Enterprises, Emma caught Michael watching her with an expression that went beyond professional admiration. They'd spent considerable time together during the transition, his genuine commitment to change matching her passion for helping others. Something was growing between them, something neither had expected, but both were cautiously exploring. Richard Blackwood, still chairman of the board, leaned forward. Impressive proposal, Ms. Thompson, but I'm curious, how did someone with your limited corporate background develop such sophisticated business acumen? Emma smiled. Necessity, Mr. Blackwood. When every penny matters, you learn to maximize value. When systems fail you, you learn to build better ones. 2 hours later, with her proposal unanimously approved, Emma left the corporate tower and headed to Lake Forest Hospital. The private suite where her mother had once been the lone patient now housed 5 women from Emma's old neighborhood, all receiving treatment they could never have afforded before. Carol Thompson sat with them, remarkably transformed after 3 months of proper care. Her hair was growing back, color had returned to her cheeks, and the doctors had officially declared her cancer in remission. There's my girl, Carol called, spotting Emma in the doorway. Ladies, this is my daughter, the one I've been telling you about. Emma hugged her mother, still marveling at the miracle of her recovery. How are you feeling today? Strong enough to start volunteering, Carol replied. These women need someone who understands what they're going through. I've been there. Emma nodded, throat tight with emotion. Her mother's natural empathy was finding purpose in helping others through their own battles, exactly what Emma had hoped would happen. Later that evening, Emma returned to her new apartment, not Harrison's penthouse which she'd left the day after the hospital confrontation, but a comfortable 2-bedroom place in a pleasant neighborhood, affordable on her new salary, yet modest enough to keep her grounded. She'd filled it with second-hand furniture that had character, photographs she'd taken with her new camera, and books she'd always wanted to read. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Michael stood outside holding a bottle of wine and a folder. The board approved additional funding, he announced, following her into the living room. Your pilot program can expand to 3 more neighborhoods next quarter. Emma's face lit up. That's wonderful. I wasn't expecting a decision so quickly. They're impressed with you. Michael said, setting down the wine. As am I. He hesitated, then added, I saw Harrison today. Emma stilled. How is he? Different. Quieter. Michael poured 2 glasses of wine. He's agreed to therapy, something our father would have considered weak, and he's been volunteering at a children's hospital anonymously. Really? Emma couldn't hide her surprise. Michael nodded. People can change when they're forced to confront themselves, even someone like Harrison. He handed her a glass. He asked about you. What did you tell him? The truth. That you're flourishing. That your mother is recovering. That you've already helped more people in 3 months than most do in a lifetime. Emma sipped her wine, thoughtful. And how are you doing? CEO life treating you well? Michael laughed. It's challenging, but meaningful. In a way, running away never was. I'm facing my family's legacy instead of hiding from it. They moved to her small balcony, overlooking a neighborhood park, where children played despite the evening chill, so different from the sterile perfection of Harrison's penthouse view. I've been thinking, Michael said carefully, about what you told us that day in the hospital, about redemption being possible. Emma turned to him, noting the uncertainty in his eyes, a vulnerability Harrison would never have shown. I believe that, she said softly. For Harrison, for you, for anyone willing to try. I'd like to try something else too, Michael said, his voice quieter now. Something not about business or family obligations or righting past wrongs. He set down his glass. I'd like to take you to dinner sometime. Not as the Wells Enterprises CEO and community director, just as Michael and Emma. Emma studied his face, so like Harrison's in features, yet so different in the warmth it conveyed. 3 months ago, she'd agreed to have a child with one brother out of desperate necessity. Now the other brother was asking for something far simpler, yet infinitely more meaningful. A genuine connection built on mutual respect. I'd like that, she said finally. But I should warn you, I'm not the same desperate woman your brother found serving champagne at a charity gala. I won't be rushed or controlled or manipulated again. I wouldn't want that woman, Michael replied honestly. I want the one who stood up to 2 powerful men and offered them redemption instead of ruin. The one who saw a better way when we couldn't. Emma smiled, feeling the last weights of her old life falling away. She had started this journey willing to sacrifice her future for her mother's survival. Instead, she had found her voice, her purpose, and perhaps even her heart. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn evening, Emma and Michael strolled through the grand opening of the first Wells Community Health Center in Emma's old neighborhood. The state-of-the-art facility would provide free care to thousands who had previously fallen through the cracks of the healthcare system. Olivia, now the center's administrative director, rushed over with clipboard in hand. The mayor just arrived. And Emma, your mother's already giving tours like she designed the place herself. Emma laughed. She practically did. Nobody argued with her suggestions after meeting her. As Michael was called away to greet city officials, Emma wandered through the crowded reception area. Faces from her past life mingled with her present. Former neighbors chatting with board members. Medical staff explaining services to community leaders, 2 worlds bridged by her journey. In a quiet corner, she spotted an unexpected figure observing the proceedings. Harrison, thinner now, less commanding, but watching the scene with genuine interest rather than calculation. Emma approached him cautiously. I didn't know you were coming. I wasn't sure I should, Harrison admitted, but I wanted to see it. What you've built. What we've all built, Emma corrected. Your funding made it possible. Harrison shook his head. Money was the easy part. Vision was what it needed. He glanced toward Michael across the room. You two seem well. We are, Emma acknowledged. It's different. Real. Good. Harrison's smile held a touch of genuine warmth. I never would have given you that. Real wasn't in my vocabulary then. And now? Harrison considered this. I'm learning, slowly. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. This is for you. A final settlement, you might say. Emma opened it to find documentation for a foundation in her mother's name, endowed with $50 million dedicated to cancer treatment for uninsured patients. Harrison, this is not enough, he finished for her, but it's a start. Before she could respond, Carol appeared at her side, stopping short at the sight of Harrison. Mr. Wells, she said coolly. Carol had eventually learned the full story of Emma's job offer. "Mrs. Thompson," Harrison nodded respectfully, "you're looking well." "Cancer-free," she confirmed. "No thanks to you." "Mum," Emma cautioned. "It's all right," Harrison said. "Your daughter taught me something important, Mrs. Thompson. That true legacy isn't about names on buildings or stock certificates. It's about the lives we touch." He handed Carol a business card. "If you're interested, the foundation needs a director who understands both cancer and compassion." With a final nod to Emma, Harrison slipped away through the crowd. Carol stared after him, then at the card in her hand. "Would you take it?" Emma asked curiously. Carol's expression softened. "Maybe. Redemption has to start somewhere." She squeezed Emma's arm. "You gave that man a chance to be better. Just like you gave all of us a chance." As the evening wound down, Emma found herself on the center's rooftop garden with Michael, the Chicago skyline glittering around them. So much had changed in a single year, from desperate poverty to not just financial security but purpose, from loneliness to connection, from powerlessness to influence. "Penny for your thoughts?" Michael asked, his arm warm around her shoulders against the autumn chill. Emma leaned into him. "I was thinking about choices, how sometimes the worst circumstances lead to the best decisions. Like refusing to have a billionaire's baby and instead forcing him to change his entire company," Michael teased. "Something like that," Emma laughed. "Though I've been thinking, maybe having a child someday wouldn't be so bad. Under the right circumstances, with the right person." Michael's arm tightened slightly around her. "I think I could be persuaded, when the time is right." Below them, the health center hummed with activity, lives being changed, a community being served, a legacy being rewritten, not through fortune or bloodlines, but through compassion and courage. Emma had entered Harrison's world willing to sell her future for her mother's life. Instead, she had created something far more valuable, a bridge between two worlds that needed each other more than either had realized. Wealth without purpose was as empty as poverty without hope. Together they created possibility. "Ready to go home?" Michael asked softly. Emma nodded, taking one last look at the city spread before them, no longer a place of closed doors and desperate choices, but of open possibilities and new beginnings. "Yes," she said, "I'm ready."